Malaking boulder gumulong-gulong patungo sa isang residential area sa China.
May nahagip kaya ang higanteng batong ito? Ang iba pa mga detalye aming ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagao Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Miyerkules.
Pilipinas at Estados Unidos nagsagawa ng bilateral maritime cooperative activity sa katubigan ng Palawan at Occidental Mindoro.
Health Secretary Chodoro Herbosa nahalal bilang 78th World Health Assembly President.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky inakusahan ng Russia na sumisira sa peace talks.
Russian President Vladimir Putin bumisita sa Kursk region.
At tambalang Manny Pacquiao at Coach Freddie Roach balik boxing training na. Nagsagawa na po ng joint maritime exercises ang Pilipinas at ang Estados Unidos sa strategic waters ng Palawan at Occidental Mindoro.
Kabilang sa lumahok sa pang-anim na iterasyon ng Bilateral Maritime Cooperative Activity o MCA ay ang Philippine Coast Guard. Idineploy ng PCG ang kanilang BRP Melchora Aquino, BRP Malapascua at Islander Aircraft 251 para sa nasabing aktibidad. Kasama rin sa MCA ang Armed Forces of the Philippines, Western Command, na nagpadala naman ng kanilang air assets. Sa panig naman ng Estados Unidos ay ang kanilang US Coast Guard Cutter Stratton ang lumahok sa nasabing maritime drills. Bilang bahagi ng aktibidad ay nagsagawa ang dalawang bansa ng Communication Search and Rescue, Division Tactics at Photo Exercise. Ang aktibidad ay bahagi ng pagpapalakas ng alyansa at commitment sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos pagdating sa maritime security.
Naupo na bilang 78th Session World Health Assembly President si Health Secretary Chodoro Herbosa. Ayon po yan sa Department of Foreign Affairs. Ang World Health Assembly ay ang pinakamataas na decision-making body ng World Health Organization at nagko-convene taon-taon sa Switzerland upang i-address ang global health issues sa mundo. Sa naging pahayag ni Herbosa, binigyan diin ito ang kahalagahan ng pagkakaroon ng matatag na samahan sa mga member nations para solusyonan ang kakulangan ng humigit kumulang 10 milyong health workers sa buong mundo sa taong 2030. Kaugnay naman po nito ay naisulong ng 78th session ng World Health Assembly ang Pandemic Agreement, isang resolusyon na pinangunahan ng Pilipinas para maging mabilisang aksyon para sa global health and care workforce. Umaasa naman ang Pilipinas na mula sa nasabing resolusyon ay mapapalawig pa nito ang global cooperation para sa kalusugan.
Maaring pumalo sa 10 hanggang 11 trilyong piso ang panukalang budget ng iba't ibang government agencies para tustusan ang kanilang mga programa sa susunod na taon. Sa kabila nito ay nilinaw ni Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman na mababago pa ang nasabing halaga. Ayon sa Department of Budget and Management o DBM, kanila pang nirerepaso ngayon ang lahat ng mga isinumiteng budget proposals sa ilalim ng second tier ng budget process. Ang budget submission ngayong taon ay bahagyang mas mataas ng 20% kung ikukumpara sa 9 trillion pesos na kabuang proposals ng nakaraang taon. Habang 70% itong mas mataas sa 2025 national budget na 6.352 trillion pesos. Samantala, inaasahang may susumite ang budget proposal 2 linggo makaraan ang ika-4 na State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa Hulyo.
Kulang pa rin po ng humigit kumulang 30,000 mga guro ang mga pampublikong paaralan natin dito sa Pilipinas. Ito ay sa kabila ng inaprubahan ng Department of Budget and Management na 16,000 bagong teaching positions. Tinukoy ni Education Undersecretary Willie Cabral na ang 16,000 na bagong posisyon ay bahagi ng 20,000 na teaching post na inilatag para sa taong 2025. Batay po kasi sa kanilang inventory, kulang pa rin sila ng 56,000 groups. Paliwanag ng ahensya kung pagbabasehan ang teacher-student ratio, nasa 30,000 guro pa rin ang kulang.
Nagbabala ang Philippine Statistics Authority o PSA sa publiko laban sa kumakalat na fake news online ukol sa ayuda na ibinibigay umano ng ahensya sa mga senior citizens na may national ID. Nilinaw ng PSA na hindi sila nagbibigay ng ayuda o kaya cash assistance sa mga senior citizens. Anila ginagamit ang national ID bilang valid proof of identity at para makapag-apply ng government benefits. Hinimok naman ng PSA ang publiko na bisitahin ang website o kaya ay Facebook page nito o kaya ang PhilSys site para sa lehitimong impormasyon.
Nilinaw naman ni Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro na hindi lamang nakalaan para sa pamilya Duterte ang panawagan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa pagkakasundo. Bukas anya ang reconciliation para sa lahat ng tao na maaring hindi kapareho ng paniniwala, prinsipyo o polisiya ng Pangulo. Dapat ay naaayon din anya sa batas at sa pambansang interes ang pakikipagkasundo.
So, ang pakikipagkasundo sa lahat, hindi lamang para sa mga Duterte, ay tama lang po na gawain ng Pangulo bilang ama ng bansa. Magsasakripisyo na siya kahit siya na po yung sinisiraan, kahit siya na po yung binibigyan ng maling kwento at binibigyan at ginagawa ng peke na video. Yan po ang dapat na gawin talaga ng isang ama ng bansa.
Sinabi rin ni Yusek Castro na wala umanong dapat nakaakibat na kondisyon ang pagkakasundo ng pamilya Duterte at ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Ito ay matapos ihayag ni na dating Presidential Spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque at dating Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo na posible lamang ang reconciliation kung gagawa ng hakbang si Marcos para maibalik sa bansa si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Nakakulong sa The Hague, Netherlands si Duterte dahil inaresto ito at isinuko ng gobyerno sa International Criminal Court.
Tandaan po natin, hindi po magpapahawak sa liig at hindi po magpapadikta ang Pangulo sa mali. Hindi po tatalikuran at babaliktarin ng Pangulo ang batas para lamang pagsilibihan ang personal na interes ng iilan. So tandaan po natin, lagi pong sa batas ang Pangulo. Kaibigan o batas? Batas pa rin po ang pipiliin ng Pangulo.
Sa gaganaping summit ng Southeast Asian leaders sa susunod na linggo sa Kuala Lumpur ay isusulong ng Pilipinas ang intensified negotiations para sa South China Sea Code of Conduct. Mahalaga ang nasabing Code of Conduct dahil layo nito na mapigilan ang isang malaking hidwaan ng mga bansa sa South China Sea. Ayon kay Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, nais ng Pilipinas na makumpleto ang Regional Code of Conduct sa taong 2026 kung saan tinanggap ang Pilipinas o ng Pilipinas ang ASEAN Chairmanship. Hindi lang Pilipinas at China ang may pinagtatalunang teritoryo sa South China Sea, may overlapping claims din ang Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei at Taiwan sa nasabing rehiyon.
Ito po, sa timbang na 3,200 tons, sukat na 118.4 meters at lapad na 14.9 meters, ay tiyak na makatutulong ang BRP Miguel Malvar sa Philippine Navy upang protektahan ang maritime territory ng Pilipinas. Iyan po naging pahayag ni spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. Ang bagong guided missile frigate ng Pilipinas anya ang pinaka-advanced and heavily armed ship ng hukbong pandagat ng bansa. Ang mga modernong kakayahan nito ay magbibigay din anya na mas malawak at mas mahabang operational reach para sa Philippine Navy. Sinabi rin ni Trinidad na isang good investment para sa seguridad at hinaharap ng Pilipinas ang commissioning ng BRP Miguel Malvar na ipinagawa pa ng gobyerno sa South Korea. May range itong 4,500 nautical miles, cruising speed na 15 knots, and maximum speed na 25 knots. Equipped ito ng sensors, surveillance systems, at maging weapon platforms para sa multi-combat operations. Kaya rin ito makipagsabayan sa anti-submarine warfare at maging sa air defense.
Susunod, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky may matinding akusasyon kay Russian President Vladimir Putin.
France ipahihiram ang kanilang nuclear arsenal sa Europa.
At UK, pinatawa ng parusa ang Israel para sa pagpapatuloy ng atake nito sa Gaza. Detalye po ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Inakusahan ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ang Russia na pinatatagal oras para tuluyang matapos na sana ang giyera nila.
Росія не відчуває, що їй потрібно закінчувати цю війну, а значить, не вистачає політичного, економічного і інших тисків на Російську Федерацію. І тому ми просимо, якщо немає припинення вогню, якщо немає серйозних рішень, якщо немає двосторонніх зустрічей, ми просимо відповідні санкції, які будуть стимулом щодо більш швидкого закінчення війни.
Sinabi nito na maraming mga kakaibang kondisyon na inihihirit ang Russia na nagpapakita na hindi ito interesado sa peace deal. Una kasi inanunsyo ni US President Donald Trump na nakausap niya sa telepono sina Zelensky at Putin kung saan agad unang uusad ng usaping pangkapayapaan. Tinawagan naman ni Zelensky ang ilang mga kaalyadong bansa nito sa Europa kung saan handa silang i-pressure ang Russia para tumugon sa usaping pangkapayapaan. Ilan sa mga ginawa ng EU ay ang pag-blacklist sa halos 200 mga oil tankers ng Russia kapag hindi tumugon ang bansa sa usapin ng pangkapayapaan.
Ich glaube, man kann sagen, das Gespräch gestern hat wieder einmal bestätigt, Erklärungen werden abgegeben von russischer Seite. Aber Beweise für erklärte Absichten gibt es bislang nicht. Er ist nach wie vor nicht zu Zugeständnissen bereit. Er spricht nur von Waffenstillstand zu seinen Bedingungen, also zu den bekannten Bedingungen wie kein NATO-Beitritt, Abtretung der besetzten Gebiete und vieles andere mehr. Wladimir Putin spielt offenbar weiter auf Zeit, auch Das kann man sehr klar erkennen. Und so auch wenn Russland bereit ist, über ein Memorandum zu sprechen, so ist doch bislang keine Waffenruhe abzusehen. Das ist jedenfalls meine Einschätzung. Einen Zeitplan gibt es nicht. Man muss also leider sagen, Putin scheint nach wie vor nicht wirklich ernsthaft an Frieden, an einem Waffenstillstand interessiert zu sein, jedenfalls nicht zu Bedingungen, die für andere akzeptabel sind.
Habang sa isang Senate hearing naman ay dinepensahan ng United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio si President Trump at ang Russia. Tinanggihan nito ang alegasyon ng ibang tao sa Senado ukol sa pagpapatagal ng proseso ng peace process sa gitna ng Ukraine at Russia. Sinabi nito na patuloy na sinusuportahan ng Estados Unidos ang Ukraine sa kabila ng pagtanggi nitong magpataw ng parusa sa Moscow.
On the issue of Ukraine, here's what we can all agree on. There is no military solution to this crisis.
Right.
It will have to end in a negotiated settlement. And the fundamental challenge we have in Ukraine is this. Russia wants what they do not currently have and are not entitled to, and Ukraine wants what they cannot regain militarily. And that's been the crux of the challenge.
I don't disagree with that at one level, but on the other hand, what Vladimir Putin is doing now is playing for time, and he's playing this president like a fiddle. And the longer he plays it, the more opportunity he has to gain territory in Ukraine, and the harder it's going to be to get him to the table. What we need to do is to put pressure on Vladimir Putin in every way we can to ensure that we can get them to the negotiating table.
Well, I disagree with this playing with a fiddle analogy, because the truth of the matter is when Vladimir Putin woke up this morning, he had the same set of sanctions on him that he's always had since the beginning of this conflict, and Ukraine was still getting armaments and shipments from us and from our allies, and the European Union is about to impose additional sanctions, and the U.S. is looking for no Patriot batteries to be able to transfer from other NATO nations into Ukrainian hands. And what the president's trying to do is end a war. He's trying to end a bloody, costly war that neither side can win, and people are dying every single day. And so, but this notion that I don't, what has Putin gained throughout this? He hasn't gotten a single concession. He hasn't gotten a single sanction lifted.
And the more time he gets without additional pressure on Russia, the more incentive he's got to continue to gain territory and continue to play for time.
Noong Martes, tinanggap ng Ukraine ang ika-17 pakete ng sanctions ng European Union laban sa Russia. Alamin po natin ang mga detalye ng balita niya mula kay May Fanway Zaragoza.
Sinabi ni Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha na nagpapasalamat ito dahil sa panibagong sanctions package laban sa Russia na ipapataw ng European Union.
We welcome and we are thankful for adoption of the 17th package of sanctions. We need such strong steps now. We need to pressure Russia.
Nanawagan rin ang Ukraine sa group of 7 advanced economies na bawasan ang cap nito sa Russia's seaborne oil na sa kasalukuyan ay nasa $60 kada bariles.
We also must step beyond 17th package. Oil price cap and our point of view, our position, reasonable price cap $30. Also, we need to pressure and we need to impact sanctions on banking system, on banking infrastructure, Russian banking infrastructure, including central bank.
Kaugnay ng sanctions, nanawagan naman ang Lithuania sa mga taga-Europa na wakasan na ang siklo ng gantihan.
We Europeans have to stop this vicious cycle, and the instrument to stop it is to impose new sanctions. 17th package that we agreed today, that's for the yesterday. We have to look forward what is in front of us and start preparing 18th package right today in this council meeting. That's what I am looking for.
May Fanway Zaragoza para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Binisita ni Russian President Vladimir Putin ang Kursk sa unang pagkakataon mula nang ideklara ng Moscow na ganap nilang nakubkub muli ang rehiyon kasunod ng sorpresang pagsalakay ng puwersa ng Ukraine noong nakalipas na taon. Base sa report ng state media sa Russia, nakipagkita si Putin sa municipal leader sa syudad ng Kurchatov sa kabinisita ang Kursk nuclear power plant na kasalukuyang under construction. Sa ibinahaging video footage, makikita si Putin na nakasuot ng suit kausap ang mga local volunteers. Inihayag naman ni Putin na sinusubukan pa rin ang puwersa ng Ukraine na umabanse sa Russian border. Ipinag-utos naman ni Putin ang pagdaragdag pa ng bilang ng demining unit sa Kursk para matulungan ang mga na-displaced na residente doon na makabalik sa kanilang mga tahanan. Matatandaan na una nang inihayag ni Putin noong nakalipas na buwan na muling nakubkob ng kanilang puwersa ang Kursk at kasama umano nila ang mga sundalo ng North Korea sa pakikipaglaban para mabawi ang naturang teritoryo. Subalit taliwas naman ito sa claim ng Ukraine na naninindigang patuloy pa ring nakikipaglaban ang kanilang mga tropa para mapanatili sa kanilang mga kamayang kontrol sa naturang teritoryo.
Поздравляю весь личный состав всех воинских подразделений, принимавших участие в разгроме неонацистских формирований, вторгшихся на российскую территорию в Курской области. Авантюра киевского режима полностью провалилась, а понесенные противником огромные потери, в том числе и среди наиболее боеспособных, подготовленных и оснащенных, в том числе и западными образцами техники силами ВСО, а это штурмовые подразделения, спецназ, безусловно, отразятся на всей линии боевого соприкосновения. Полный разгром противника в Курском приграничье создает условия для дальнейших успешных действий наших войск и на других важнейших участках фронта, приближает разгром неонацистского режима. Поздравляю весь личный состав, всех бойцов и командиров с этим успехом, с победой. Благодарю вас за проявленное мужество, героизм, за служение Отечеству нашему и народу России. Спасибо.
Kinukonsidera ng France na gamitin ang sarili nito ang nuclear arsenal para protektahan ang mga kaalyado nito sa Europa. Nagpaalala si French President Emmanuel Macron na kailangan maging handa ang Europa na ang Estados Unidos ay hindi mananatili sa panig nila ukol sa isyu ng Ukraine at ng Russia. Inimbitahan din ni Macron ang kanyang mga kaalyado sa isang pulong sa Paris para pag-usapan ang isang durable peace. Isa sa mga kailangan nilang pagkasunduan ay ang pag-deploy ng peacekeeping troops sa Ukraine para pigilan ng Russia sa muling pag-atake nito.
Inanunsyo ng United Kingdom ang kanilang targeted sanctions laban sa mga Israeli settlers groups at ang pagsuspindi ng trade deal negotiations sa Israel.
Therefore today, I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. We will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary, Madam Deputy Speaker. Today, my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East, is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office to convey this message. Prime Minister Netanyahu, end this blockade now and let the aid in. Regrettably, Madam Deputy Speaker, despite our efforts, this Israeli government's egregious actions and rhetoric have continued. They are isolating Israel from its friends and partners around the world, undermining the interests of the Israeli people, and damaging the image of the State of Israel in the eyes of the world. The UK, Mr. Speaker, will not give up on a two-state solution. Israelis living in secure borders, recognised and at peace with their neighbours, free from the threat of terrorism. Palestinians living in their own state, in dignity and security, free of occupation. The two-state solution remains the ideal framework, indeed the only framework for a just and lasting peace.
Ang nasabing hakbang ay matapos ang pagharang at hindi pagpayag ng Israel na makapasok sa Gaza ang mga humanitarian aid. Pinuri naman ng mga rights groups ng UK ang nasabing desisyon kung saan marapat na sumunod na rin ang pagtatapos ng paglipat ng mga armas. Mumuelta naman ang Israeli government sa desisyong ito ng UK. Ayon sa Israel, tila pinipinsala lamang ng UK ang sarili nilang ekonomiya dahil sa anti-Israel obsession at domestic political consideration.
מתחילת המלחמה אמרנו שכדי להשלים את הניצחון, להכריע את החמאס ולשחרר את כל חטופינו, שתי משימות שמשולבות זו בזו, יש תנאי אחד הכרחי. אסור לנו להגיע למצב של רעב, גם מבחינה עניינית, גם מבחינה מדינית. פשוט לא יתמכו בנו, לא נוכל להשלים את משימת הניצחון. יש לנו מלחימה עצומה, עצימה ועצומה, ויש התקרבות. אנחנו הולכים להשתלט על כל שטחי הרצועה. זה מה שאנחנו הולכים לעשות.
Magugunitang ikinabahala ng United Kingdom ang hindi pagpapapasok sa kanila ng Israel dahil sa pagdami na ng mga masasawi, bunsod ng kawalan ng pagkain at mga gamot.
But first, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say something about the horrific situation in Gaza, where the level of suffering, innocent children being bombed again, is utterly intolerable. Mr. Speaker, over the weekend we coordinated a response with our allies, as set out in my statement with President Macron and Prime Minister Carney last night. And I want to put on record today that we're horrified by the escalation from Israel. We repeat our demand for a ceasefire as the only way to free the hostages. We repeat our opposition to settlements in the West Bank. And we repeat our demand to massively scale up humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The recent announcement that Israel will allow a basic quantity of food into Gaza, a basic quantity, is totally and utterly inadequate. So we must coordinate our response, because this war has gone on for far too long. We cannot allow the people of Gaza to starve. And the Foreign Secretary will come to the House shortly to set out our response in detail.
At sa kaugnay pong balita, tumanggap ng permiso ang United Nations mula sa Israel na makapasok ang karagdagang 100 emergency aid truck sa Gaza. Ito po ay sa kabila ng mga ulat na nasa poder pa rin ng Israel ang mga naunang supplies nito linggo. Narito pong report ni Emmy Kapili-Taruha.
Kamakailan, nagbabala ang international humanitarian experts ukol sa napipintong tagsalat sa Gaza kung saan may naninirahang 2.3 milyon na mga tao. Dahil sa panawagan ng iba't ibang bansa at pangbuong mundong mga organisasyon, pumayag na ang Israel na wakasan ang 11 linggong pagharang sa Gaza aid supplies. Ayon sa United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, karagdagang 100 mga truck ang panahintulutan ng Israel na makarating sa Gaza.
We have requested and received approval of more trucks to enter today. Many more than were approved yesterday. And we expect, of course, with that approval, many of them, hopefully all of them, to cross today to a point where they can be picked up and get further into the Gaza Strip for distribution.
Samantala, inilarawan ng UN ang tunay na nagaganap pagdating sa daloy ng tulong, na mas nanganganib na kawin ang tulong kung kakaunti ang daloy nito. Ibinebenta aniya ang mga ito sa tindahan ng Desperation.
On your first one, around 100. Past experience has very clearly showed that the less aid you get in and the less there is properly distributed in Gaza, the more desperation rises. And that has several effects, predictable effects. One is that the insufficient supplies are at greater risk of being looted. Why does that happen? Because it's being sold. It is being sold on what some people call a black market. I prefer a market of desperation.
Dagdag ng ahensya, may paraan upang buwagin ang tindahang ito ng mga nakaw na aid.
There's one way to remove this market of desperation overnight, in one go. And that is to open access for all this aid to come in to meet the needs of desperate people. And the market of desperation disappears, and there's no reason to loot the trucks. Okay? And these are commodities that I think I listed some of them last time, that are literally life-saving, have already been cleared by Israeli authorities. There's no dual use. What is there? There is baby milk, baby shoes, nutrition supplies for sheer survival. So if you allow this in, you will not have this market, there's no reason for looting, and the problem is solved. So back to what it is and why we are asking for all these, for this siege of Gaza to be lifted. That's why.
Nagbabala rin ang isang opisyal ng UN Palestinian Refugee Agency na lalong tataas ang antas ng malnutrisyon kung patuloy ang kakulangan ng pagkain papasok ng Gaza. Aniya, nakadudurog ng puso ang kawalan ng buhay sa teritoryo.
I have data from until the end of April, because May data we don't have yet. It shows the malnutrition is on the rise. It went down when the ceasefire happens, it went down, but now it's on the rise. And then the worry is that if the current food shortage continues, it's exponentially increase, and then beyond our control. I, Rick and myself visited Gaza many times before the war. We always enjoyed the nice people, nice food, nice environment in Gaza. It's unthinkable that 10% of kids are malnourished. It's unthinkable that we have severe malnourished children in Gaza, where they used to enjoy the life. And there's no life in Gaza. That's what our staff says so. And this will affect our operations.
Emi Capilita Roja para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Kinumpirma ng Foreign Ministry ng Israel na pahihintulutan nitong makapasok sa Gaza ang aid trucks na may dalang baby food. Ito'y matapos lumabas ang mga ulat na hinaharangan umano ng Israel na makarating sa milyon-milyong Gazans ang mga pagkain at gamot. Narito ang report ni Leslie Gumarang.
Noong Lunes, sinabi ni Foreign Ministry Director General Eden Bartal na minamadali ng Israel ang pagpapapasok ng aid delivery sa Gaza, lulan ang mga pagkain para sa mga sanggol. Dagdag ni Tal, inaasikaso na rin nito ang pagpapapasok sa teritoryo ng 12 pang truck sa mga darating na araw.
Today, Israel is facilitating the entry of trucks with baby food into Gaza. In the coming days, Israel will facilitate the entry of dozens of aid trucks. Its conclusion, the bottom line is clear. Israel always complies with international law and with its obligations and statements. Everyone in the international community should take a decision which side he is on Israel's side or on the Hamas side.
Nilinaw ni Tal kung para kanino at kung para hindi kanino ang aid na inihahandang makapasok sa enclave.
The purpose of the aid is to help the population, not to support Hamas. This is the rationale behind the new American model for aid presented 10 days ago by U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Few words about the new model of aid. An international fund, GHF, will operate based on this principle. Direct aid to the population in Gaza, but not to Hamas. Israel supports this plan fully. The fund will distribute the aid in several distribution centers located in safe areas in Gaza. The IDF will not take part of the distribution. The IDF will secure the perimeter. The distribution sites should be operating in matter of days.
Dagdag ni Tal, aasikasuhin lamang ng Israel ang palibot ngunit hindi ang mismong distribution centers ng aid.
it's very clear that the area is not as safe as the center of Israel. On the other hand, it's very clear that the American fund took all the measures in order to protect the sites. As I said before, Israel will protect the perimeter itself but not the distribution centers.
Samantala, sinabi ni Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na layunin ng Israel na kontrolin ang lahat ng Gaza bilang bahagi ng extensive ground operations nito na inanunsyo noong linggo. Gayon din ang pagpigil sa Hamas na nakawan ang aid shipments. Ito ay sa kabila ng pagtanggi ng Hamas na sangkot ito sa anumang pagnanakaw. Leslie Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Pinasalamatan naman po ng Pangulo ng Mexico ang mayor ng New York City dahil sa pagtulong nito matapos sumalpok ang isang Mexican Navy sailing ship sa isang tulay sa Brooklyn. Patay po ang 2 kadete sa nasabing insidente at marami ang sugatan. Narito ang report ni Anjo Milano.
Sa unang minuto pa lang, nariyan na ang suporta ng New York para sa crew. Iyan ang pahayag ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum nang pasalamatan nito si New York City Mayor Eric Adams noong Lunes. Ito ay paraan niya sa suportang ipinakita nito sa Mexican Navy sailing ship na naaksidente sa Brooklyn.
Yo quiero agradecer en particular al alcalde de Nueva York, a Eric Adams, lo hice en mis redes sociales. Desde el primer minuto tuvo la tripulación todo el apoyo, fueron llevados a los hospitales. En el hospital fallecieron estos 2 jóvenes, una mujer y un hombre, y todos los heridos recibieron atención.
Sumalpok ang Mexican training vessel nung katimok sa Brooklyn Bridge noong Sabado ng gabi. Masyadong mataas ang top mast nito na nasa 45 meters kung kaya tumama ito sa tulay na naging dahilan ng pagkabuwal nito habang dumadaan ang barko sa ilalim. Ani Sheinbaum, kasalukuyang iniimbestigahan ng Mexican Navy Ministry at ng US National Transportation Agency ang insidente. 2 katao ang nasawi at ilan ang nasaktan dahil sa aksidente.
El buque Escuela Cuauhtémoc pues es un buque de enseñanza muy importante para todos los cadetes de la Marina. Se están haciendo las investigaciones de por qué ocurrió pues este choque con el puente. ¿Quién hace las investigaciones? Por supuesto, en una parte, pues la Secretaría de Marina con sus propios elementos, pero en los Estados Unidos, quien hace la investigación es la Agencia Nacional de Transporte de los Estados Unidos. Ellos tienen que hacer la investigación.
Anjo Milano para sa mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Nagbigay ng pahayag ang White House ukol sa ilang maiinit na mga issue na kinasasangkutan ng Trump administration. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Anna Cui.
Noong Lunes, hinimok ng White House ang Republicans sa US House of Representatives at sa Senado na suportahan ng buong-buo ang malawakang tax bill ni Pangulong Donald Trump. Nakakuha ng approval ang bill mula sa isang congressional committee noong linggo.
That's why it's essential that every Republican in the House and the Senate unites behind President Trump and passes this popular and essential legislative package. This bill will be the single most pro-small business, pro-family, and pro-American worker legislation ever.
Dagdag ng White House, kung mananalo ang Democrats sa pagkontra sa bill na ito, haharap ang bansa sa napakalaking pagtaas ng buwis sa kasaysayan ng Amerika.
If Democrats get their way and the Trump tax cuts are not extended, Americans will face the largest tax hike in history to the tune of $4 trillion. Republicans must not side with Democrats in helping them raise taxes. It is absolutely essential that Republicans unite behind the One Big Beautiful Bill and deliver on President Trump's agenda. There is no time to waste.
Sa isang balita, kontra si Pangulong Donald Trump sa desisyon ng Moody's na pababain ang sovereign credit rating ng Estados Unidos. Ayon sa White House, may kumpiyansa ang mundo sa ekonomiya ng Estados Unidos.
I want to get the President's reaction to Moody's downgrading the credit rating of the United States.
Sure. Well, look, the president talked about this over the weekend. The Secretary of Treasury also talked about it. When you look at the world has confidence in the United States of America and our economy once again. The president just last week secured trillions of dollars in investments from countries in the Middle East. We have seen trillions of dollars of investments flowing into our economy since the president took office. That is because America, or people around the world have confidence in the United States of America.
Dagdag ng White House, malaki ang optimismo sa ekonomiya ng US kung kaya't hindi sumasang-ayon ang Pangulo sa pagsusuri ng Moody's. Ana Cui para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, mga tauhan ng isang alkalde sa Mexico patay matapos pagbabarilin.
India bigo sa pagpapalipad ng kanilang bagong satellite.
At Manny Pacquiao and Coach Freddie Roach muli nagsama sa Wild Card Gym. Mga detalye po ng mga balita niyan at iba pa mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Construction. Global Us visited a very special tree, quite possibly the oldest on the planet, but one that's also endangered. Plus, we talked to former Greenpeace director Kumi Naidu. Can we phase out coal, oil and gas to at least slow down global warming?
Global Us.
Sa dami ng usap-usapan, alin ba ang dapat paniwalaan?
Magandang umaga, Pilipinas! Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Siyempre po, worldwide.
Balitang may basehan, komentaryong may laman. Kasama sina Jen Subarjaga at Nelson Lubao.
Tuloy ng paglilingkod bayan.
Balita, komentaryo, totoo. 100%. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga, dito lang sa NET25.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Ramdam na ang tindi ng init ng araw. Para masigurong protektado ang ating kalusugan ngayong tag-init, narito ang ilang tips mula sa Department of Health. Kung maaari, huwag munang lumabas ng bahay tuwing matindi ang tirik ng araw. Siguraduhin din na lagi tayong nakakainom ng tubig, gumamit ng payong at sombrero, magdala din ng pamaypay. At para laging cool, samahan ng masayang talakayan ni na Ali Soto at Pat P. Daza dito sa ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo? Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga, dito lamang sa NET25.
Together sa NET25.
Ang kidlat ang nakaparadang police car ng Newcastle Police Department sa Oklahoma. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, walang nasaktan sa insidente dahil walang laman ang police cruiser nang tumama ang kidlat. Mula rito ay ginawang halimbawa ng emergency officials ang insidente sa publiko para seryosohin ang banta ng lightning strikes. Kapag nila nakaririnig na ng mga pagkulog tuwing masama ang panahon, ay kaagad humanap ng masisilungan at umiwas muna sa mga puno, metal structures at i-unplug ang anumang electronics sa panahon ng bagyo.
Nakaiwas ang isang motorcycle rider sa Feshan County, Hechi, Guangxi Province sa China mula sa bumagsak na malaking bato sa daan. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nanggaling ang boulder mula sa bundok bago ito tumama sa sulok ng isang private residence. Wala namang napaulat na nasaktan o nasawi sa insidente, pero nagdulot naman ito ng kasiraan sa mga ari-arian. Kinumpirma ng local government officials sa lugar na ang crash site ay isa sa geological hazard zones. Dahil anya, kapag bumuhos ang malakas na ulan, ay nagbubunsod ito ng rockfall sa lugar. Kasalukuyang minomonitor ng mga otoridad ang rehiyon para umagapay laban sa potensyal na kapahamakan na maaaring idulot ng hazard sa mga residente.
Nakaligtas ang isang truck driver sa Thailand matapos tumagilid ang sinasakyan nito sa intersection sa Ayutthaya. Sa poll sa CCTV ang mabilis sa pagmamaneho ng truck driver Subalit, nang sinubukan itong lumiko sa susunod na kanto ay tumagalid ito bago sumalpok sa isang poste. Dumating naman ang mga pulis sa crash site para sumaklolo sa driver kung saan nagtamo ng ilang galos sa katawan ng biktima. Batay sa salaysay ng driver, sinubukan itong mag-brake. Subalit, dumiretso anya ang kanyang sasakyan dahil sa bigat ng yelong karga nito. Ang Thailand po ang isa sa mga bansang may worst road safety record sa mundo.
Dinala naman sa paggamutan ng isang ginang sa Poland matapos mabagsakan ng lamppost. Nagsimula ang insidente nang sinandala ng isang lalaki ang lamppost at saka natumba ito. Tumulong naman ang shopkeeper na nakakita sa insidente para mabigyan ng paon ng lunas ang babae. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, tutungo sana ang ginang sa isang preschool para sunduin ang kanyang apo. Napag-alaman na marupok na ang pundasyon ng lamppost at kinakalawang na rin ito.
Sumabog naman sa mukha ng groom sa Cambodia ang hawak nitong wedding cake sa gitna ng kanyang wedding reception. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, biglang sumabog ang cake. Bakit pa kanyo? Dahil sa paghalo ng apoy mula sa kandila ng cake at ng flammable aerosol gases. Kaya nang hinipa ng groom ang kandila ay, ayan o, makikita niyo po sa inyong TV, ay bigla na lang sumabog ito sa mukha niya. Kinumpirma naman ang host na hindi nagtamo ng kahit anong paso sa mukha ang groom. Aba, nawalan lamang ayon ng balanse ng lalaki matapos ang pagsabog ng cake.
Sa Mexico, 2 pangunahing staff members ng Ciudad de Mexico mayor ang pinaslang sa isang pag-atake sa kabisera ng bansa. 2 sa pinakamatataas na miyembro ng team ni Mexico City Mayor Clara Brugada ang pinatay sa sentro ng kabisera noong Martes. Ayon kay Pangulong Claudia Sheinbaum, ang malamang nasangkot sa pagpatay ay ang nakasakay ng motorsiklo.
Sa pagpatay ay nakasakay ng motorsiklo.
Confirmada. La jefa de gobierno, Clara Brugada, acaba de emitir una tarjeta informativa. El gobierno de la Ciudad de México informa que lamentablemente perdieron la vida durante una agresión directa la secretaria particular de la jefa de gobierno, Jimena Guzmán, y José Muñoz, asesor de la jefa de gobierno, en la calzada de Tlalpan y la calle Napoleón en la colonia moderna de la alcaldía Benito Juárez.
Nagpahayag ng
pakikiramay si Sheinbaum sa mga kamag-anak ng nasawing mayoral staff.
2 personas vienen trabajando en nuestro movimiento desde hace mucho tiempo. Los conocemos, nuestra solidaridad a sus familias, a Clara, y vamos a darle todo el apoyo que requiera por parte del gobierno de México.
Sa isang
pahayag, sinabi ni Brugada sa X na walang pagliligtas sa parusa. Lahat ng may kagagawan ay aarestuhin at dapat na humarap sa batas.
Para sa mata ng Agila.
Samantala, nabigo po sa paglunsad ng sarili nilang satellite ang Indian Space Agency matapos makaranas ng problema sa gitna ng pagpapalipad ng rocket. Sa kabila nito ay sinabi ni Narayana na naging matagumpay naman ang naunang 2 phases ng launching. Pero sa ikatlong stage ay dito na pumalya ang chamber pressure na motor case. Hindi naman naglabas ng kabuuang ulat ang Indian Space Research Organization hinggil sa nasabing issue. Isinagawa ang launching sa Satish Dhawan Space Center sa Sriharitoka sa Andhra Pradesh.
Today we attempted a launch of PSLV C-61 vehicle. The vehicle is a 4-stage vehicle. First 2 stages performed as expected, and during the 3rd stage, it's a solid motor system. We are seeing observation. The motor pressure, there was a fall in the chamber pressure of the motor case, and the mission could not be accomplished. We are studying the entire performance. We shall come back at the earliest.
Walang sinayang si Filipino boxing icon Manny Pacquiao na oras para pagandaan ang laban niya kay WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios. Habang nasa wildcard gym sa California ay tuloy-tuloy ang kanyang ginagawang pag-iensayo. Sa loob ng ring ay muling nagkita ang 46 anyos na si Pacquiao at ang longtime veteran boxing coach nito na si Freddie Roach. Huli kasing nagkasama ang dalawa noong laban niya kay Biyernes ng Cuba para sa WBA 147-pound belt. Kabilang si Roach sa trainer nitong si Buboy Fernandez na magsasanay sa dating senador para sa pagbabalik sa boxing ring ni Pacquiao. Magugunitan nitong araw ng Linggo, nagtungo sa US si Pacquiao para sa training para sa laban niya sa buwan ng Hulyo.
At nag-takeover po si Shale Gilgeous-Alexander sa second half para ihatid ang Oklahoma City Thunder sa 114-88 win. Laban po yan sa Minnesota Timberwolves sa Game 1 ng Western Conference Finals. Inilista ang 20 sa kanyang 31 points sa third and fourth quarters. Nabigay pa ng 9 assists si MVP finalist Gilgeous-Alexander. Nagdagdag naman ng 19 points, 8 rebounds and 5 assists si Jalen Williams. May 15 points, 7 rebounds naman si Chet Holmgren. Umiskor naman ng 28 points si Julius Randle para sa Timberwolves. Subalit, hindi na nito kinayang makahabol pa sa second half. Nalimitahan sa 18 points mula 5 out of 13 shooting si Anthony Edwards na may league-leading average at 26.5 points per game sa first at second round ng playoffs.
Manatili pong nakatutok, magbabalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Trask Construction.
Inaresto ng mga otoridad sa Vietnam ang isang beauty queen dahil sa pagbebenta umano ng mga peking fiber supplements. Si Nguyen Thuc Thuy Tien ay nagpo-promote sa kanyang social media ng mga gummies na mayaman umano sa fiber. Lumabas kasi na mayroon lamang 16 mg ng fiber ang produkto at hindi 200 mg gaya ng sinasambit nila sa kanilang promosyon. Sinuri ng mga otoridad ang ibinebenta nito at napatunayan na walang katotohanan. Sikat si Nguyen sa kanilang bansa matapos ang magwagi ng Miss Grand International Pageant. Una nang inaresto ng mga otoridad noong Marso ang 3 influencers na kasama ni Nguyen na nagbenta ng nasabing produkto. Mahigit 100,000 na mga kahon ng nasabing produkto na ang naibenta bago maaresto mga endorsers dahil umano sa panloloko sa mga tao.
At nagwagi ang Austrian singer na si Johannes Peach sa Eurovision Song Contest ngayong taon. Nang ibabaw ang kanyang operatic song na Wasted Love sa pinakamalaking live music television event na ginanap sa Switzerland. Ito ang unang panalo niya mula noong 2014 na magwagi siya sa Conchita Wurst. Idineklara na panalo ang isang contestant sa pamamagitan ng boto ng kanyang nakukuha mula sa mga national jury sa buong Europa at maging sa mga viewers. Labis ang pasasalamat ng 24-year-old Filipino-Austrian singer na makamit ang ganitong tagumpay. Dagdag pa nito na mahalaga na palaganapin sa buong mundo ang pagmamahal.
Sa ibang balita, bago opisyal na buksan sa May 22 ang pintuan ng Epic Universe Theme Park, sa Florida ay inimbitahan muna nito ang mga media para iparanas sa kanila ang ganda ng bagong parke. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, ang sukat ng parke ay doble pa sa laki ng Universal Orlando Resort sa Florida. Higit sa nakabibiglang laki ng theme park ay maraming mga sections ito na nakatema sa mga kilalang movie at game titles katulad ng Harry Potter, Super Mario Brothers at DreamWorks animation characters. Inaasahan na kada world theme ay maaaring may naka-install na 3 ride attractions habang maaaring makipag-meet and greet ang mga bisita sa mga characters doon. Halimbawa na rito ang Super Nintendo World kung saan maaaring makasama ang mga karakter na sina Mario at Luigi.
At para lalong mahasa pa ang pang-amoy ng mga canine dogs ng Copenhagen Police Department ay kanilang isinailalim ang mga ito sa masinsinang training. Hindi sa field kundi sa National Aquarium ng syudad. Ayon sa hepe ng Copenhagen Police, nasanay ang mga aso ng kanilang istasyon sa mga urban environment. Kaya sa pagkakataong ito ay kailangan naman silang sanayin sa ibang lugar. Nagsimula ang training sa paglahok ng kanilang mga aso, mga edad 8 hanggang 9 weeks old para ma-expose ang mga ito sa diverse environments. Karaniwan sa mga patrol dogs nila katulad ng German Shepherds ay kanilang sinasanay sa operating hours ng aquarium, habang ang mga specialized dogs naman para sa explosive detection at narcotics ay sinasanay sa ibang oras. Sa kabila po nito, kahit ang pagsasanay sa aquarium ay hindi itinuturing na opisyal na training method, nakikita naman ng mga police officials kung gaano ka-epektibo ito, mula na rin sa ipinakita magandang performance ng mga sniffing dogs. At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita sa mga dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagao Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa NET25 World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. Extreme weather is causing widespread devastation across multiple continents, with deadly floods, powerful storms, and tornadoes impacting communities from Australia to Europe and across the United States. We have a roundup of the latest on these severe weather events. And the news starts now. Extreme weather is causing widespread devastation across multiple continents, with deadly floods, powerful storms, and tornadoes impacting communities from Australia to Europe and across the United States. We have a roundup of the latest on these severe weather events. Take a look. In Australia, drone footage on Wednesday showed the severity of flooding over Tinoni, New South Wales. Heavy rain triggered flash flooding, cutting off entire towns in the Hunter and Mid-North Coast regions. Some areas received more than 4 months worth of rain in just 24 hours. Australia's Bureau of Meteorology warns some areas could see up to 300 millimeters of rain over the next day.
we have seen an enormous amount of rainfall over the Hunter and the mid-north coast area.
We have significant amounts of rainfall, 200 to 300 millimetres of rain that we've already experienced in the Hunter and the mid-north coast. We're expecting from the Bureau's indications and predictions that there is another 24 to 48 hours of this rainfall, again of a similar amount, approximately 200 millimetres of rain. They'll continue to create localised flash flooding. Any low-lying areas will be seeing flooding as well. And this system is slowly moving to the north. So
Across Europe, severe storms have also caused fatalities. Eyewitness footage from Monday showed hail crashing down in France. In southeastern France, floodwaters gushed through streets in Villeurbanne on Tuesday, where one person died after being trapped in a car. In the seaside town of Lille-Vendoux, heavy rainfall also caused significant damage, with one elderly woman confirmed dead and her husband still missing. Storms are expected to continue in southern France throughout the week. Meanwhile, the United States is grappling with its own wave of severe weather. In Lynchburg, Kansas, heavy rain and strong winds rocked trees during a fierce thunderstorm on Monday, knocking out power across a wide area. Electricity suppliers reported restoring power to over 90% of 75,000 affected customers in Kansas and Missouri, though thousands remain without electricity. The National Weather Service is also surveying storm damage in Henry County, Tennessee, to confirm possible tornado activity. And in West Tennessee, powerful winds sent debris flying over a tornado touchdown in Jackson on Tuesday, tearing off a factory roof. No injuries were reported there. Further south, a massive tornado was captured swirling in Athens, Alabama, also on Tuesday. Officials are urging residents to seek shelter, and thankfully no injuries or fatalities have been reported in Alabama as of Tuesday night. Turning now to Southeast Asia, where ASEAN is stepping up efforts to address the ongoing conflict in Myanmar. The region's leaders are set to hold two important meetings ahead of next week's summit in Malaysia, focusing solely on the crisis that has displaced millions since the military coup in 2021. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, currently chaired by Malaysia, has long called for an end to the violence in Myanmar. But progress has been slow despite the bloc's 5-point consensus peace plan. ASEAN Secretary General Kao Kim Horn spoke to Reuters about the upcoming talks and what they hope to achieve.
We don't expect a complex, deep-rooted conflict to be resolved overnight. It would be presumptuous for any party to expect a quick fix to this issue. For us, we stay engaged. We work with Myanmar, and it is clear from the ASEAN side we want this to be a Myanmar-led, Myanmar-owned process. We always say that at the end of the day, it's up to the people of Myanmar. It's a continuation from what was done in La PDR. But it is not ad hoc. It's basically, it was planned. It will be taking place. And the full consultation, meaning all that's informed, so that they will meet all together. Rather than, it's an open-ended meeting. No, it's not. It's all. So this is something new that will specifically focus on Myanmar, that they will take no other issue.
The first meeting will bring together the current, previous, and next ASEAN chair nations, Malaysia, Laos, and the Philippines. The second will be a full gathering of ASEAN foreign ministers, focused exclusively on Myanmar. While the talks won't promise immediate solutions, Kao Kim Horn emphasized that any reduction in violence and continued dialogue are important steps forward.
Believe me, those who are directly involved, they are more anxious, I'm quite sure, than anyone else. And how much patience they have, incredibly, because as they negotiate, as long we can de-escalate violence on the ground. That's already a progress. As long we continue to have dialogue, and as long we bring down, a large-scale fighting to a smaller one, as long we can bring people to the table, I think that's progress.
To the U.S. now, a New Jersey congresswoman is facing assault charges after a confrontation with law enforcement at a Newark immigration detention center earlier this month. A clash that was caught on video and has sparked a political firestorm.
Circle the mayor! Circle the mayor! Circle the mayor!
Absolutely. U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Haba, announced charges Monday against Representative LaMonica McIver, a Democrat from Newark, alleging she assaulted and impeded law enforcement during an unannounced inspection at Delaney Hall Detention Center on May 9th.
Congresswoman! Is she right in front of you? Don't touch her! Don't touch her! Get off the bus! Get off the bus! Get off! No! No! Congresswoman! Get off!
The same incident also led to trespassing charges against Newark's mayor, which have now been dropped. Congresswoman McIver denies any wrongdoing, calling the case politically motivated.
Let me be clear. Unelected billionaires like Elon Musk have no place in our government. He is trying to puppet master Trump's decisions about everything.
Supporters in Congress are rallying behind McIver, insisting the charges are baseless.
We've all seen the video. The American people know of LaMonica's innocence. And that is why they recognize this reprehensible political stunt for the farce that it is. To charge this woman with this crime would be laughable if it weren't so sadistic.
Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey also weighed in, defending McIver and her colleagues.
All of this incident was because of an arrest that was an unjust use of power, that was an abuse of power, and that they now have shown their cards they had no right to arrest him in the first place. That's right. So these three congresspeople caught up in that crisis, stood their ground, used their voice, and did their job.
But not everyone in Washington agrees. U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan says lawmakers must respect the law.
So I said from day one, from the day of inauguration, you can hate on ICE all you want, you can protest all you want, sanctuary cities can look the other way while ICE goes arrest public safety threats from their communities, which is really their job, but you can't cross that line. You cannot knowingly harbor and conceal illegal aliens. It's a felony. You can't impede ICE law enforcement officers. It's a felony. You can't commit criminal trespass, and you certainly can't put hands on an officer or employee.
The confrontation also led to heated exchanges on Capitol Hill. Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey pressed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on the rights of members of Congress to inspect detention facilities.
You can confirm that you understand that members of Congress, by law, are allowed to show up unannounced to conduct oversight visits of ICE detention facilities.
Yes, they can conduct oversight, but Senator, what I would ask is that they understand that that doesn't mean they could show up with a mob with the intention to break in and assault law enforcement officers. That's what happened at Delaney Hall. All of that, and we were accommodating that when those individuals showed up, and they decided instead to break in.
The back and forth continued as Senator Kim pushed for clarification.
You know that they were already on the ICE premise, already facilitating into having the tour when there was the arrest of the mayor. They were not breaking into.
They had broken through the outer fence, and they were interior on federal property when the crimes occurred.
They were invited in by ICE as the ICE was preparing to give them a tour.
That doesn't give them an excuse to start punching law enforcement officers.
But you understand that they were not storming the fence.
Well, I don't understand. Are you making excuses for their behavior that day?
I'm just trying to clarify what exactly
oversight
happened.
is.
President Donald Trump also weighed in, criticizing McIver's actions.
Your DOJ is weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control. Did you address those days are over. The days of woke. No, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
The case against Congresswoman McIver is ongoing, with both legal and political battles expected to continue in the weeks ahead. Staying in the U.S., a significant development out of Washington, the U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for President Trump's administration to end legal protections for nearly 350,000 Venezuelans. And this ruling issued Monday allows the Department of Homeland Security to terminate the Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, that was initially granted by President Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden. So here's the deal with TPS. It's a program that lets people from countries facing serious problems, like war or natural disasters, live and work legally in the U.S. It was meant to be temporary, but for many countries, these protections have been extended for years, even without offering a path to citizenship. Now, just before leaving office, President Biden had actually extended TPS for Venezuelans by another 18 months because of the ongoing crisis under President Maduro. But now we're seeing a different approach. President Trump has promised to deport record numbers of people who are in the country illegally, and his Homeland Security Secretary has already started the process to end TPS, not just for Venezuelans, but also for Haitians, Afghans, and Cameroonians.
The mission of the Department of Homeland Security is to secure our nation and to make sure that we're out there going after those that are the worst of the worst, the criminals, the bad actors.
As part of this tougher stance on immigration, the Trump administration has also used a wartime law to speed up deportations of suspected Venezuelan gang members and has sent troops to the southern border to try to prevent illegal crossings. In a new development, the administration has just launched Project Homecoming. On Monday, a group of 64 migrants who were in the country illegally boarded a flight from Houston to Honduras and Colombia. They chose to leave voluntarily and each received $1,000 to help with their return home. The program also gives them the option to apply to come back legally in the future. Take control of your departure and receive financial support to return home. If you don't, you will be subjected to fines, arrest, deportation, and will never be allowed to return. Of those who left, 38 people arrived in San Pedro Sula, Honduras.
They applied for this CBP home program. The United States gave them the $1,000 before they boarded the plane, and here on arrival to their country, to their homeland, those who come to the Migrant Return Center also have access to the benefits that the President of the Republic has created.
According to Honduran officials, the group included 9 children, and 4 of them were actually born in the U.S. With the Supreme Court now backing his immigration policies and these voluntary deportation flights completed, President Trump is clearly moving ahead full steam with his immigration enforcement plans. The administration seems to be using both stick and carrot approaches, stricter enforcement paired with financial incentives for those willing to leave voluntarily. And now let's head on to South America, where Venezuela is experiencing heightened tensions just days before voters head to the polls. On Monday, Venezuela suddenly cut air travel with its neighbor Colombia. The country's interior ministry announced they're suspending all flights after security forces detained 38 people, including 17 foreign nationals, who authorities claim were plotting to disrupt this Saturday's parliamentary and gubernatorial elections.
When we check flights from Colombia that come from other destinations and enter Venezuela through Colombia. These are flights from Colombia. We have given the instruction to suspend all the flights from Colombia to our country because the information we have is related to this type of movement of people.
Información que tenemos, tiene que ver con este tipo de traslado de gente.
Venezuelan officials say the detained individuals were carrying explosives and allegedly planning to target critical infrastructure, including hospitals, embassies, and police facilities. According to the Interior Minister, this group included not just Venezuelans, but also nationals from Colombia, Mexico, and Ukraine. He described the suspects as a mix of explosives experts, human smugglers, and hired fighters. Meanwhile, President Maduro addressed the situation during a televised meeting.
38 new mercenaries have been detained. The Albanian mafia that governs Ecuador sent some of their trained mercenaries to plant bombs in Venezuela. They have been captured.
Venezuela's aviation authority has confirmed the flight suspension will remain in effect until May 26th at 6 p.m. local time, notably one day after the elections conclude. Colombia's foreign ministry acknowledged they've been informed that flights will resume after voting ends. However, they noted they haven't received any official confirmation about the reported arrest of Colombian citizens. The sudden travel disruption has left many passengers stranded, including this traveler at the airport.
We boarded, and once we were on the plane, they made us get off because an announcement came from Venezuela that they were prohibiting, canceling all flights.
They started turning people away, and then we got a WhatsApp message from LATAM that the flight was delayed, and then we got another one that's saying it was canceled.
This latest development unfolds against a backdrop of ongoing political turmoil following Venezuela's presidential election last July. While electoral authorities declared Maduro the winner, opposition groups and several international governments have challenged the results, pointing to what they describe as substantial evidence of electoral manipulation. In the same televised address, President Maduro connected the alleged plot to criminal organizations he claims are operating from Ecuador and working with Venezuelan opposition forces.
Ya hay 38 nuevos mercenarios detenidos.
38 new mercenaries have been detained. The Albanian mafia that governs Ecuador sent some of their trained mercenaries to plant bombs in Venezuela. They have been captured. As I have denounced, we have the Albanian mafia. We seized 3 phones from them and they are talking. And why is the Albanian mafia from Ecuador sending them? Albanian Colombian drug trafficking and Ecuadorian President Noboa in Ecuador. Why? Because Eric Prince is there, and if Eric Prince is there, the North American Empire is there.
Y si está Eric Prince, está el Imperio Norteamericano.
Political pressure continues to mount as prominent opposition figure Maria Corina Machado calls for voters to skip Saturday's election entirely. Recently, 5 members of her team who had taken shelter in a diplomatic residence for over a year were able to leave Venezuela. While U.S. officials described their departure as a rescue operation, Venezuelan authorities maintain it resulted from negotiations with the Maduro government. Dozens of Machado's associates, including her attorney and campaign staff, remain in custody. Colombian President Gustavo Petro, who re-established diplomatic ties with Venezuela in 2022, has yet to comment publicly on these developments. With both neighboring countries navigating delicate diplomatic waters and election day approaching rapidly, the question now facing the region is clear. What will unfold this Saturday when Venezuelans are scheduled to cast their ballots? Russian President Vladimir Putin has made his first visit to the western Kursk region since Russian forces reclaimed the area last month. The Kremlin says Putin's Tuesday visit included meetings with volunteers, aiding recovery efforts, and a stop at the Kursk 2 nuclear power plant. Now, this trip follows Russia's announcement in late April that it had cleared Ukrainian forces from the region, ending what Moscow described as the largest foreign incursion onto Russian soil since World War II. Now, that cross-border operation began last August, with Ukrainian forces briefly capturing nearly 1,400 square kilometers of territory using drones and Western-supplied weapons. Here's the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin.
The situation in frontier zone remains difficult even after the liberation from enemy. We also talked about it with Alexander Yevseyevich, but you know it better than anybody else. In general, all the Kursk region faced in some ways the problems which are typical for frontier zone. Everybody, including those who lives in Kursk city, faced these problems and hit now a rough patch. Once we agreed that 65,000 rubles that the residents now receive will be paid until the liberation of region from enemy. Now there are no enemy troops in settlements in frontier zone, but at this moment it is impossible for residents to return there until the full mine clearing. So, we will continue to pay this money.
A severe hunger crisis is unfolding in Gaza, with international experts warning of looming famine. While the United Nations has received permission for about 100 more aid trucks, the assistance is under Israeli control, and many families remain desperate for food. Philip Toledo reports.
39-year-old Palestinian father Mahmoud Alagao is among those crowding at a soup kitchen in Gaza's Jambalia. Scrambling to get a bowl of soup, it is barely enough to feed one person, much less his entire family. Hao cares for his wife, 4 children, and his brother's 2 children. He waited hours for this soup. It will be their breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'm 30 years old. I can't. I have a sick daughter. I can't provide her with anything. There is no bread. There is nothing. I'm here since 8 in the morning, just to get one plate for 6 people. While it is not enough for one person, it's basically not enough for one person. 6 people each get 1 spoon or 2 to barely satisfy the hunger we are experiencing. Now, after we get food from the soup kitchen, thank God, you see the number of children I have. This is my niece who is paralyzed, and this is my daughter who has a heart disease, bronchial asthma, and epilepsy. She is not growing up. She is 7 years old and she weighs 11 kilograms. Thank God, as you can see, this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner, thank God. After we got food from...
The United Nations has received permission from Israel for about 100 more emergency aid trucks to enter Gaza. However, they are under Israeli control. International humanitarian experts warned of looming famine in the Palestinian enclave of 2.3 million people. The growing outcry has pushed Israel to lift an 11-week blockade on aid supplies. According to Gaza health authorities, Israel's ground and air war has devastated coastal territory, displacing nearly all its 2.3 million residents and killing more than 53,000. Israel plans to intensify military operations against Hamas and to control the whole of Gaza. However, Israel denies Gaza is facing a hunger crisis. The blockade, in part, prevents Palestinian militants from diverting and seizing aid supplies. Hamas accuses Israel of using starvation as a military tactic. This campaign began after Hamas-led militants attacked Israeli communities near Gaza's border in October 2023, killing about 1,200 people and seizing 251 hostages, according to Israeli tallies. Philip Toledo for NET25 World News.
Meanwhile, oil prices are up significantly today, driven by escalating tensions in the Middle East. Reports suggest Israel may be preparing a strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, raising fears of a broader conflict that could disrupt global oil supplies. International benchmark Brent crude jumped more than 1% on Wednesday after CNN reported, citing U.S. officials, that Israel has been observed positioning munitions at air bases and conducting what could be a preparatory exercise. While it's unclear if a final decision to strike has been made, traders are concerned. An attack could threaten crude supplies from Iran, OPEC's third largest producer, and potentially lead to Tehran blocking vital tanker routes through the Gulf. Now, this would impact oil from major producers like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. The news comes as U.S. and Iran have been holding talks on Iran's nuclear program. However, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei recently cast doubt on the talks, stating he doesn't believe they will yield any result. Even if a deal were reached, the CNN report suggests an Israeli strike could still be likely if it doesn't include the removal of Iran's uranium stockpile. Despite these fears, signs of stronger U.S. crude supply, with reportedly using stocks last week, helped to limit the overall price surge today. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Why is the Land Rover Defender an iconic vehicle in Uganda, a country where this off-roader was once a symbol of fear? From a symbol of oppression to a source of pride, Ugandan enthusiasts have shifted gears, steering the Land Rover's narrative from a turbulent past towards a brighter future, 1 mile at a time.
Live.
Back to Japan, which opened its biggest ever arms exhibition on Wednesday. Defense Minister General Nakatani says this event highlights the country's growing commitment to overseas defense cooperation and expanding weapons exports, signaling a shift for the traditionally pacifist nation. Take a look. The DSEI Japan exhibition near Tokyo showcased a wide range of military technology, from missiles and warships to cutting-edge research on lasers and electronic magnetic railguns. This year's event is twice the size of the 2023 edition, featuring 471 companies from 33 countries, including 169 Japanese firms, double the number from 2 years ago.
全体のエリアも広くなりましたし、非常に海外も含めてですね、多くのカンパニーの皆様、それから多くの企業、いわゆる軍の関係者、政府の関係者の皆様にご参加いただいていると思います。大変盛況でございますし、我々もこういう機会を通じてですね、幅広い方に技術含めてご認識いただ理解していただけることは大変お喜ばしいことだと思っております。
First of all, I think it's a practical example of changes what we witness globally and which are also affecting Japan and. From the first view, one can easily see it's the DSI this year is twice as big as before. We are glad we have 2 Estonian companies here. Our dynamically intensifying relations with Ministry of Defense of Japan, with self-defense forces. All these are elements which contribute to our growing interest and practical deal-making, let me call it so.
Japan has been gradually moving away from its post-World War II pacifist stance. Since lifting its military export ban in 2014, the country is now actively pursuing global defense collaborations, encouraged by the U.S. and European allies eager to share development costs and tap into Japan's advanced industrial base. At the event, U.S. Ambassador to Japan, George Glass, highlighted the importance of strengthening alliances through joint development and sustainment efforts.
The stakes couldn't be higher. Our economies and the values we have defended for so often in the past are truly on the line. And that's why the United States is committed to securing peace through strength. As the President has articulated on many occasions, and as the Secretary of Defense reiterated during his visit earlier here in Japan in March, that strength comes from expanding and elevating the alliance's capabilities and capacity, which means leveraging our respective skills and our specialties in co-development, co-production, and co-sustainment.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by